Hello and welcome to the Social Jar podcast, a brand new podcast brought to you by us guys here at Uniform Media, where we will be plucking 3 topics of conversation from the social jar, the world of social media that have taken our interest in the last few weeks or days. But first of all, guys, just before we get off, better off introduce ourselves, I think. I am Dan Wiseman. I'm a social media manager here at Uniform Media, and every day I get to work with these 2 lovely gentlemen who are...
I'm Ryan Long, and I'm the graphic designer.
Dan literally just gave himself a promotion, social media manager. We'll see, Dan. We'll see. One day. Yeah, great to join you guys. My name's Andreas Giorgio. I'm the brand strategist here at Uniform Media. And obviously, some of you may know, it's not obvious, but some of you may know that the Social Jar, we actually launched a pilot for this show last year. And COVID and a number of other things, some changes within the company, meant that we weren't able to carry on with the show. But I'm now so excited. I've got Ryan and Dan here to pluck those topics out of the Social Jar. And I think that this is going to be a real fun listen for all you social media aficionados.
It's been a long time coming, hasn't it? Long time coming.
Definitely. And there's a lot going on in social media as well. Like I feel like at the minute it's just constant news all the time, constant updates from platforms, new things that are coming out. It's just a constant flow of brave and amazing new features.
Yeah, I think that's probably because of the amount of time that we've had to spend on it. You know, if you look at the last year, I don't think I've ever spent such a concentrated amount of time on social media as I have done recently. And I feel like the platforms have probably taken their chance, really, that they've never really had before, where they've got such a volume of people using it at such an extended rate. And it's changed so much in that time, hasn't it, really? So
it's the space of a year, the space of a pandemic.
Yeah, exactly that.
I mean, because a pandemic is basically 2 times a normal year. So, like, there's been 2 years of development
We're
going
aging
on.
in dog years, aren't we, at the moment, really?
I think, you know what? One thing I've noticed from the very beginning of the pandemic, like, you're absolutely right, Dan. The first thing that happened was when everybody got locked in at home was how are we going to shift this to make how we do our jobs, how other people do their jobs, businesses are operating, make it easier for them to do that remotely. And that's when we saw the rise in the boom in Zoom and Microsoft Teams. That really, really helped those platforms, which aren't necessarily social platforms, but digital entities really become a big part of a lot of companies' day-to-day strategy. But when you look at socials, I mean, you've had the launch of Clubhouse. Clubhouse has become a real big platform over the last year. TikTok has continued to boom, dominate the charts as arguably the number 1 downloaded app across the board around the world. So it's been a big year for technology.
Yeah, it really has. It feels like, I don't know about you, Ryan, but like we've seen entire apps, their span just exist within the pandemic. So we've seen apps come and go during that time. You know, apps like Zoom have just come out of nowhere. And I don't know about
Teams
you, mate.
I didn't even know of.
Exactly. So we've seen apps like almost put themselves onto the stage as like premier social media apps just because of the pandemic. And like, it's crazy, isn't it? Even for you as a graphic designer and stuff like that, it's so many different things must have come to the fore in that time.
Yeah, like, how do you mean?
I think, and
You're supposed to be the specialist here. No, but like one of the things that we were talking about the other day is like the paper effect on designs has like literally taken over the last year. Like every brand is utilizing that creased paper or paper rip effect.
Yeah, well, there's trends for almost everything. Like, you know, you get some trends like the fact that like 90s fashion is everywhere at the minute, but it doesn't have its place in all areas. So like, you know, business and stuff. Whereas like in the retail sector, you'll find that it's purely just 90s aesthetic through and through. You can't escape it. But like this desire to include like organic techniques like tears and half-tone effects. It's just everywhere. It's in everything now. Business and in retail design. Yeah. And it's just interesting that how come we've reverted back to a more organic way of creating content in social. You know what I mean?
Well, I suppose for you particularly, mate, before we get into the crux of the show, I don't suppose you must have spent so much time in the past year, just honing your skills? Because, you know, we've been locked in the house. It's been you and your laptop. You and Creator Studio must have really formed quite the bond throughout the pandemic.
Well, that's one way of putting it. You know, you've got to constantly like work on your skills, like because everyone's doing the same. It's really competitive out there, and almost anyone can be a designer now. You know, there's apps like Canva that make the field of design much more saturated. Would that be the word? You know, anyone can be a designer. And
this is what you sort of wanted to bring to the table this week, isn't it? Is that, you know, you're looking at how, you know, anyone can be a designer, really.
Anyone can, and it's probably harder for designers to break through and prove that it's worth an investment for a business, you know. And if you do get a good designer, it shows. You know, their knowledge of everything from color to type. It's not something you take lightly. It's something that you can implement, and when it works well. You know?
That felt like a bit of a plug, didn't it? Really.
I'm a good social media designer. Yeah,
Hi,
Dan, I think. How about you? Since you are the host of the show, why don't you pull the first topic out of the social jar this week?
So this is something that I've noticed, and it's sort of as we come up to the Euros, we actually ran a post on something very similar across our platforms last week. And it's sort of about how when you look at sports teams, whether they be national or on club level, and this is not just football, or this is with the story we ran on was the LA Lakers, about how during the NBA regular season, they generated more engagement, 20 million more than the second place team, who are the Golden State Warriors. And you sort of feel like because they made that trade for LeBron James and they have the biggest NBA star in their ranks, are sports teams just PR machines for their players? Like as when you're, you know, if you're on the social team for a big sporting organization, are you ultimately defined by the actions of your players? Because we saw Ronaldo, when he joined Juventus, they generated the amount of leads, you know, they gained 4 million followers just from that transfer. So ultimately, you can produce, I feel, amazing content for 90% of the squad. But if you have that one player that leaves or moves to a different team or anything like that, retires, it can all go to pot essentially, can't it, really? And you feel this ahead of the Euros, you know, if you're planning the different content for your players and your teams, if you're Portugal's social media, are you best not just running, you know, 5 or 6 Cristiano Ronaldo posts every day? Because that's what the people want to see ultimately, isn't it?
Yeah, I think one of the posts I actually saw, it's really interesting you mentioned that. I can't remember if it was BT who did this or if it was like the actual UEFA page, but after every round of the Champions League or the Europa League, when they were doing like a roundup of the results from the Champions League and the Europa League, I clicked through it, and on Twitter, out of 4 of the posts, 2 to 3 of them were United pictures. So like when we're saying the roundup of the last round, they were using pictures of Pogba. I think Bruno Fernandes was on there. And I think obviously when you're a social media manager for an account like that, as we know, you need to use an image or you need to use something that's going to draw in the attention. And United's one of the biggest teams in the world. And then you've got players like Pogba and Fernandes who are massively popular, obviously not on the level of Ronaldo, but in terms of who was left in the Europa at that point, biggest stars. And United are arguably one of the biggest teams in the world with the biggest social media reach. So why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you try and capitalize? If you've got a Ronaldo, you know, let's try and make as much content as we can around Ronaldo, because he is like the biggest football star on the planet if you look at actual social numbers.
Yeah, and like this is something you and I were talking about this off air, weren't we? Last week we were sort of discussing how you've got such a huge audience for, you know, if we use sort of football and basketball as the examples that I was talking about, in places like China and in Japan and out in those Eastern Asian countries where fans are attached to players, not to teams. So like you get people that get into football because they see Cristiano Ronaldo or they see Lionel Messi or the guys like Pogba that Andreas was talking about. And so when they move teams like Ronaldo did to Juventus or like LeBron James did when he moved from Cleveland to Los Angeles, fans follow that player to that new club as opposed to sticking
migration.
Yeah. And so it's that interesting trend, isn't it, mate, whereby you're now getting a huge proportion of the sporting audience who are attached to players as opposed to the more traditional forms, as we all are, who are unfortunately attached to one club in particular.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting, isn't it? This is where the fans are split, I think, nowadays. Because you've got like this era of like the footballer as like their own sort of club, you know. You've got all these super managers, you know what I mean? Like, and they just, it's not so much about the club anymore. It's about their career and getting the best offers. And it, you know, for me, and a big supporter of my club, I'm all for the club, and it's not so much the player isn't as important as the club, and but there are people out there, and a lot of them who are all for the player, and they just follow that player from club to club, and that could just be the future of it.
Yeah, well, I think that's the trend that we're seeing on social media, isn't it? Where you see mass migration of followers from one account to another, and now within the industry. I feel for the social media managers, man, because they're producing all this amazing content, but ultimately, as I said at the top, are you just a PR machine for those players?
Let me tell you this. So remember the dreaded European Super League. Remember what Perez was saying. The most important thing, what they were trying to market, is that they need these big matches to attract the casual audience, to attract these people who aren't necessarily fans of United, Madrid, Barca, but are just general football fans that want to watch the biggest games.
You mean fans who find the game too long?
Fans, yeah, exactly. Let's go down to those 60-second football matches. But that's one of the interesting points, because if you think about it, the reason why people like Ronaldo and Messi, and there's such a huge audience following them as opposed to following the team. Can I just say there is nothing in these cups, and he just did a fake sip. So I'm really proud of him. I asked him to do it. But all these players that, that are these big superstars like Messi and Ronaldo, the casual fans are following them. So actually, maybe there is more casual fans in football now than there has ever been before. So when you say, everybody wants to see Ronaldo content and Messi content, it's not necessarily, because people are following them from team to team. Like Ryan's obviously a United supporter, and I'm sure like he does like Ronaldo, but he's not going and consuming every single piece of Ronaldo content. But the casual audience who maybe they only half follow a team, or they're not too bothered, and they're like, oh, I love Ronaldo, one of my favorite players. They're going to be the ones that are following him and following those content. So if you are a social media manager and you have an asset like that at your disposal, like UFC, for example, Conor McGregor, like if you're going to pick one person to try and build content around, it's going to be Conor, one of the biggest stars in the entire world, let alone sports. So if you have that, you've got to use it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo is the most followed person on Instagram. I'm correct in saying. I think he tops that of like not just sport, but anybody. I think he's number one. And I think.
And then I'm number two. I think.
Yeah. How many followers has he got?
It's something ridiculous, 68 million or something like that. And then I think it's Ariana Grande in second. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I think. And so that's the platform that we're talking about.
Who does Ariana Grande play for?
Wigan Athletic. Yeah. We'll break up the ticks.
Come on. So that was something, and I think as we approach Euros season, that was just something that I think would be interesting to see. And you look at across the Euros how different national teams, who they spotlight going into these tournaments.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to actually keep an eye on those national team pages, because for England as well, I think I've been seeing a lot of Jack Grealish content. I know that our boy here will be happy about that. But yeah, I guess we don't really have a major star in the England camp right now, would you say?
No, and I think
Harry Kane?
Rashford, come on. He's just the hero, isn't he, at the minute?
Ben White.
True.
Ben White is the guy.
The villain.
I think the thing is you're seeing like now within the England camp is that the attention is so widespread. So you've got the guys like Kane who are at the fore, but so much of the attention is now on the younger guys.
Yeah.
Like Jude Bellingham, these younger guys. So it's really interesting to see, and as we go through the Euros, I was saying how they balance it out, who they choose to sort of pick up on these individual games and stuff like that, and comparing that to a Portugal, say, where you've got a Ronaldo, will be quite interesting, I think.
Do you think as well, I guess we'll close out the topic on this note, but if you are a team, let's say like a Switzerland, and you haven't got an abundance of big name stars in your camp, do you think that actually the owner should be more on the comms and social media team to try and do interesting and fun content that's going to probably put them more out there on social, as opposed to relying on someone like, I think it was AC Milan. I know this wasn't obviously an AC Milan initiative. It was from one of the players, but when they qualified for the Champions League this season, one of the players did the Champions League pan march sort of thing, which happens at the beginning of every match. And that was awesome. And that kind of content as well, like, from an actual page, like whether it's a club or whether it's a national team, I think that's like what I'd want to see more of if I'm a national team and I've not got necessarily these huge players amongst the ranks of the squad.
Yeah, I think then you run the narrative, because everyone loves an underdog, don't they? I feel like, I don't know about you, Ryan, but like if you are a side like that, then I think you have to sort of really yank on that underdog story to sort of like base your content around, because ultimately when you go into European Championships, I mean, next Sunday, guys, I've never been more excited for Austria against North Macedonia. I would never watch that game normally, but in the Euros, you get excited for that. And I think if you are the social manager for the sides like Andres was talking about, is that what you choose to pull upon, do you think?
Well, yeah, like...
Because I think that's what as you said, when you don't have those stars, like that's where I think it falls.
You can have a lot
really?
more fun with it, can't you?
That's what I'm saying.
I think it's probably
And there's no
a
pressure
limitation.
either,
Yeah.
is there? Yeah.
If you feel like you've got to like just be putting out content about a certain character in the squad, then it becomes a little two-dimensional, I think. Whereas you can have so much more freedom as a team to like really like shape an identity that like works in their favor.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can run with that underdog thing, and like be more cheeky with your content as well. You know,
definitely.
And that gets a lot more traction, I reckon. You know, humor, using like getting some laughs on the old social.
Mm-hmm. And everybody else, you let us know. Why don't you tweet us in at Uniform Brand? And when it comes to content in the sports world, do you prefer to follow the big characters, the big names, or are you loyal to your team within the sport? Let us know and help us join in this discussion on a very good topic which Dan brought out of the social jar this week.
Where is this jar?
Where is the jar? There is no physical jar yet.
We toyed with that idea,
didn't we? Toy with an idea. Amazon Prime wasn't delivering in as quick of a time as we wanted.
Did give us Eric though, so who
we did get Eric Cantona and Dan Southgate there in that wonderful picture. So next topic at the social jar, guys, is something that I've really been picking up on recently, and it's the movements of YouTube. And YouTube have obviously just recently announced the launch of Shorts, which people at home will be aware of, emulates TikTok, emulates Instagram Reels, is short form vertical video content, which has become very, very popular. Like I said at the beginning of the show, TikTok is the most downloaded social media app on the planet. And a lot of the other social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they're all trying to get a piece of the pie, and YouTube as well. But one of the things that YouTube, to coincide with their launch in the UK, Latin America, and some other regions, they have officially announced that Shorts will now be able to sample audio, not just from other shorts, but from any video on YouTube. Now, a little bit of a history lesson here. TikTok, which originally was called Musical.ly, was more of a musically inclined app. It was all about...
Nice.
Love that. It was all about sampling songs, doing almost lip syncing to songs and doing cool dances. Over time, it became branded as TikTok, and that's really changed. You know, if you go on TikTok now, the amount of content and the difference in the content is unbelievable. You get comedy skits on there, you've got sports clips on there, you've got everything, and you've still obviously got the musical element, which was popular with Musical.ly, but it's a much broader platform now. So now that YouTube are doing this, which I think is super, super interesting, where let's just say Charlie bit my finger, which I'll actually get onto in a little bit, you could sample that video's audio in a short. How interesting is that? That you can take some of the most popular YouTube videos of all time and use that to your advantage to make content on that platform. Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it can only be a good thing, right? Like, it's just, there's everything. Everything's on YouTube. Like, and how amazing is that for us to have access to it? If the only drawback I can find is the fact that it's not accessible for everything. You know, it's just TikTok and Shorts.
I think this is the first, it's really interesting because this is the first time we've seen YouTube threatened as a video sharing platform. It's like YouTube for so long have been like undisputed kings of that industry. And this really feels like the first time that they've had a bit of a scare. Yeah. And it feels like with this being able to sample that audio from they're pulling out, you know, that's a real card under their sleeve, isn't it? That I don't think TikTok can match. And look, I'm not saying that because they've survived Instagram Reels, which I think has been, we really like Instagram Reels here. Like,
yeah.
We think it's been a good addition, and TikTok has managed to stave off that threat. Snapchat have had their Spotlight, which is their equivalent. Again, you know, that's water off a duck's back, really. TikTok has remained unscathed. But you do look at YouTube Shorts, who are obviously already in that video sharing arena. This could be a really interesting competitor for TikTok, couldn't it?
Well, if you think about it, the last 5 years, YouTube has been saying we want longer content on our platform, and it's promoted with their algorithm generally longer content, you know, from big creators. If you go and look at people like Logan Paul, KSI, when they upload a video, the video isn't 3 minutes long, the video is 10 to 15 minutes long. And these live videos like True Geordie, for example, these 1 hour, 2 hour long football watch alongs that he does in these big interviews, you know, YouTube has really tried to turn itself into a Netflix, essentially. Like, you go on YouTube, you can watch your favorite characters, your favorite YouTubers, and you want to be on the platform as long as possible. That's why when you look at the analytics, watch time is like one of the most preferenced elements of data that YouTube are pushing its creators to use. Now, they're flipping that on its head, and they're saying, look, everyone loves TikTok, biggest platform in the world for social media. How do we emulate that? Okay, we've got Shorts, but then how do we get more people to create Shorts? Because you have to remember this, not everybody has a YouTube account, and not everybody is a YouTube creator, but most people have a TikTok account, most people have a Facebook account, an Instagram account. So they're now trying to think, how can they get the investment of these users that just want the short form content? And I think Shorts is going to be that. And I think what's going to be really interesting with this is, I think we're going to actually see it to a point where YouTube's own creator base is really diverse, and you're going to have your hardcore YouTubers who will follow the same format, creating their videos 3 times a week, 2 times a week, long form content. And then if Shorts does pick up, you'll have creators on there that are just creating short content, the exact same way that you would do it on TikTok. And that's going to make it, for somebody that likes to consume content, a very desirable platform to spend time on, which I think that's what YouTube's goal is with this.
So it's sort of taking over the role of TikTok. And it's...
Well, they want to, right? I mean, can they do it?
Who doesn't? I mean, it's like, it presents that difficult dilemma, I think, for the creators. And that's something that it's going to be interesting to see. But for YouTube themselves, I mean, it's a dream, isn't it, really? Because it means that for the audience, they have that variety whereby they can engage with the short form content that they do on TikTok or on Reels or on wherever they sort of get that short form vertical content that was Andreas talking about. Or you can still engage with the more traditional, sort of longer landscape, that more traditional YouTube content that we've known and loved for so long. I mean, I don't know about you, Ryan, but like, do you think can you see that? Does that change anything for you? Like, are you on TikTok?
I've literally just joined TikTok because I'm working here.
Okay, this is interesting.
I have been terrible with social media. I got all into Instagram to begin with, and then I got bored, and then I've just sort of shied away.
I don't think anything like showcases Ryan's sporadic use of social media more than his LinkedIn picture. Which
Yeah, my LinkedIn says it all.
Pull that up on screen in the edit. You'll see it right now on screen. It's what varsity or something like that, or your first year of university.
It's an absolute beauty.
Love it. It's definitely a professional picture that I would say belongs on LinkedIn.
But you've made it to TikTok now.
Yes,
It's huge.
and
huge.
it's mint. It's well good, I think.
I spend a lot of time on TikTok, mainly whilst I'm on the toilet.
Yeah, it's so.
Well, yeah.
It's completely, and
Where
it's funny
else?
we're talking about YouTube, but those YouTube rabbit holes that you used to go down, you're like 3 a.m. and you're like watching some stuff about like
Where
camel
am I?
migrations
How
across
did
the
I get
Sahara, and you're
here?
like, what is going on? I don't do that anymore. That has become because of the recommended TikTok algorithm.
Yeah.
That time, like I have to allocate slots to go on like TikTok because
Yeah.
it's not like I'll go on for 2 minutes and then I'll come off. Like I know if I go on there, it's like hours and hours of my life that are just gone because you can't get off the damn thing. And that algorithm is what I think people are trying to emulate the most,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because that's what grabs people.
Look, platforms want you to be on there as long as possible. They want you to be on them because it's all about advertisement, isn't it? Selling ads. YouTube, we know now, even if you aren't able to monetize your videos, YouTube are able, with the new policy update, to put adverts on your YouTube video. So the control is completely in their hands. And I think YouTube have really been moving towards this for the last 10 years, essentially, is to take more control over the content. And that's why now, as we actually posted about on Uniform on our socials the other week, one of the biggest YouTube videos of all time, Charlie Bit My Finger, is going to be removed from YouTube because it's going to be sold as an NFT, a non-fungible token, which is a blockchain token. And therefore, that video, which has been on the platform for the longest of time, is one of the most highest performing videos ever. Just like that, gone. And the owner of that video is going to be incredibly rich. And NFTs, just for anybody that's not really in the loop, as I mentioned, non-fungible token, what it enables somebody to do, like a content creator, is create scarcity within a product. So I always use the example, Gas Panic CD. You buy a Gas Panic CD, obviously an amazing band.
Check them out.
Love them. Check them out on YouTube. I can see the producer looking at me off screen. You buy a Gas Panic CD and then you're like, well, great, but I've listened to it all now. I'm going to sell it. So you sell it to Ryan for £1.
Lucky you.
Yeah,
Lucky you.
Lucky
Gas
Ryan. Get it around. Ryan buys it for £1. And then obviously from that transaction, you make £1. But the Gas Panic make nothing. Make zero. So what an NFT would allow, if you were to create music within an NFT structure, which is blockchain, is that when you sell that on to Ryan, the original author or creator of that NFT would receive royalties. And that's why in the art world, NFTs are very, very popular right now. And in the music industry as well, I think they're going to become more popular. Kings of Leon released their latest album as an NFT, I believe. So that ability to control the asset more, to be able to say, look, no matter how many times that's sold on, the original author will get the rightful royalty, I think is amazing. And Charlie Bit My Finger getting pulled off YouTube, I think that says a lot, because I'm sure that's probably a monetized video anyway, and the amount of money that's generated on YouTube over the last 10 years or however long it's been up there, for somebody to go, actually, I can make even more money selling it as an NFT token. But the thing with an NFT token is when you sell it, you no longer own it. So whereas YouTube is a public platform, if you sell that NFT token, only one person owns that NFT token. So, well, unless you create 10,000, because you can create however many you want of a specific item, but each one is an NFT in its own right. So I've seen like these cool artworks where there's 10,000 of them, but it's a limited edition. But if there's one Charlie Bit My Finger video and only one person can own it, and it's not YouTube, I think that says a lot about the shift that we're seeing in digital ownership and digital rights.
So the owner can decide then where that video exists.
Well, yeah, and arguably it would exist nowhere. If you own the NFT token, you don't want to really share it with people, do you? Because the whole idea about NFT now is almost like stocks, in terms of you buy something and then you want that value to increase so you can sell it on. Whereas obviously there'll be a lot of people that don't care about that. They just want to buy great artwork and they want to buy their Kings of Leon CDs, you know what I mean? So there are really two audiences when it comes to NFT. And I know that we're going to be running an article on Uniform's website very soon about NFTs. So for more information, stay tuned for that. But yeah, I personally think that's super, super interesting. Like YouTube now, they've been the Goliath when it's come to video and obviously homemade videos for such a long time. And I don't know. It looks like they're trying to pull all these magic tricks out of the hat, you know, with shorts and all these different things, because the onus is moving to different platforms.
Let me just strip all the technicalities away from that, and it's a fascinating subject, but I just can't. I think it was £500,000 that Charlie Bit My Finger was bought for. Somewhere in the world, there is one man or woman that is just sat at home watching Charlie Bit My Finger on repeat, thinking, great buy. Great.
Definitely
purchase.
worth it.
Well worth the money.
I mean, it's a great video.
You've got to absolutely love Charlie Bit My Finger. I mean, who doesn't love it? It's like an OG of the YouTube platform. Like, everyone knows it, everyone loves it. But you've got to seriously love that video to think, $500,000?
Yeah.
That's mine. That is just mine.
Yeah, but like what? In 10 years, that's going to be worth 2-3 million.
Yeah, it's an investment.
You know,
isn't it?
it's an investment, and that's why NFTs are such a minefield. And because we're still so early on in the NFT world, a lot of people are like, God, I don't even understand this. And because I think that there isn't really a reasonable understanding of it yet, because right now there are a lot of companies trying to capitalize on that and make money from it, and creators and artists. And on the other side, like I'm saying, there's just people who generally want to get into blockchain and to buy things through a safe ledger, which will allow them to keep and maintain control of assets. So
CryptoKitties.
CryptoKitties. What's this?
This is like you can have your very own cyber cat, basically.
Oh, really? Is it an NFT?
It's an NFT, and they're designed to be like their own little quirky little characters that you can own for whatever price.
Thousands of pounds. Yeah.
And some of them are very dear. Some of them are really rare.
Yeah.
And people are going mad for them.
But I think it's cool. I think NFTs will be here to stay. It's the same as like an ICO, which is like a crypto coin. So like Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever. Like in the last couple of years, so many different companies tried to launch their own ICO because it was, in the beginning, everyone was trying to get into crypto. So they're like, all right, let's make our own crypto coin. There's a lot of money to be made. There was a lot at the time, a lot of investment going into that. And then all of a sudden, you know, in the last few years, it's like now it's an absolutely awful idea to try and launch your own ICO. And that's because even though the market is still very volatile, the kings of the marketplace, like Bitcoin, Ethereum Lite, they've kind of found their place there and like trying to say, hey, let's introduce something new, like Dogecoin, for example, which is basically just a meme coin. You know, it's really hard because obviously Doge is probably a bad example.
This is like peak internet.
Yeah, that's peak memes, and that's why the price of Doge is constantly going up, because there are generally people trying to back it. But in terms of, I've seen a lot of other coins. I'm like, there's just reading the white paper, like that is not going to succeed. So I think that whole world of blockchain is just a minefield, and I think, who knows, like it's going to affect YouTube, as we're seeing, and I think it's going to affect other platforms as well, like as NFTs become more accessible as well. Like you're saying, like £10,000 to own your own crypto kitty. Like what happens when things become more accessible and you only have to pay £100 or £200 or something like that? So, you know, I think it's really interesting time, and I think obviously that's why YouTube are trying to make these big changes to their platform to keep their audience engaged. So, yeah. That's my topic this week on the social jar. So I guess, Ryan, we'll move across to you. Your topic's right at the bottom there. Why don't you pull it out?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to talk about graphic design and its role in social media, because like we were saying earlier, anyone can do it. Anyone can be a graphic designer now with Canva, or you can design in-app as well, can't you? You can make things look great to some extent. I say that with a grimace. Yeah, I'm not taking this all too personally, trust me. But I just think it saturates the profession, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I just think it just makes it harder for graphic designers to convey to their best ability a better process for brands. And
I think like I set up like during lockdown, I wanted to sort of keep myself like sort of in the game remotely. I set up like a personal blog, and it was just like a space, and like I used Adobe Spark for the first time to like make that, and I just made some like really basic like social promos, like little stuff for my Instagram stories and stuff like that. And I was really surprised with how quickly you can make something, and like how good it looked. Like really considering that was
There's
like my
some
first time using it.
amazing
It's like,
stuff out
I
there.
was really surprised with considering, it's a free to use, but it's a great tool for if like anyone trying to like sorry Ryan, I hate to say it,
No,
but it's for someone that's like trying to get into it. It's great, and you can produce some good looking stuff on there, can't you?
Yeah, and this is the thing. I'm not against it entirely. I think it's empowering. I think the fact that social media means that we all have a voice now, and everyone's voice matters. And I think if you can convey your voice, it's like what graphic design does is it just helps propel or what you're trying to say. And if you can make something that looks good and stands out, then that's amazing. And if you've got something, it's all about content. If you've got something worth saying and you can say it well, then by all means do it through AR Spark or whatever. It's something you've just got to do it, and by whatever means, so be it. But I'm talking about like branding for businesses and such. You know what I mean? These agencies, they shouldn't be just finding anyone, and relying on the likes of Canva. I mean, I feel like I'm really tired.
It can only take you so far.
You
can't it?
hate Canva, don't you? No, but you know what? I think. Look, I'll play devil's advocate. What's great about Canva and Spark is, and I've used Spark a lot as well, before we had Ryan on the team, is that it's so intuitive and it's so easy to use that you do not have to be a graphic designer. But I think the thing about Spark and Canva is, even though you can make a good design, you know that it's not been made by a professional graphic designer, because there are certain rules that you have to adhere to if you're a graphic designer, and professionalism in terms of how you make the designs, the quality, outputting at high res, all these different things that I think Spark only until recently didn't allow you to output as high res, and I think Canva makes you pay to output at certain high res qualities as well.
But I think that's also probably a really effective aesthetic for social, because we're living in like an age of meme culture.
Yeah.
And it's all about being quick and nasty with it. You know what I mean? If you ever put time into a meme, people can sniff that right out, and they don't like it. It's not an effective. It loses its effectiveness. So
Forced memes are the worst. I saw one on social yesterday, where someone was like taking time out of their day to make a meme. And it's not just like, there's a difference between like making a meme like for the first time. Like I love that Winnie the Pooh one where it's just a picture of Winnie the Pooh, and it's like the broke versus woke kind of thing. Love that. Like creating a meme for the first time. But like if you spend time trying to create a meme of that meme, that's when I'm like, just don't bother. That's why personally, none of the accounts we manage, when clients ask us about memes, I'm generally always say, don't touch it. Because unless you are actually a meme account, I just personally don't see the value in it, especially if you're trying to be professional. I think I would much rather play with the copy and be funny and intuitive with the copy, as opposed to being like, hey, let's just upload a bunch of memes and like try and get people to jump on the bandwagon. I just don't think that works unless you have the right audience for that. But the amount of clients that have come to me and said, should we do memes? And I'm like, do you know what a meme is? Yeah. Like, you're asking for a meme.
Can we do a meme?
Do you actually know?
It's a hard thing to come up with, isn't it? Is that so if a client comes to you and says, can we do memes? That's a huge amount of pressure, isn't it? Because then you sort of put pressure on yourself. I think memes are at their best, and this sort of links to what you were saying, like when it's quick, it's intuitive, like it's sort of the spur of the moment thing. But like if you're having to actually sit down with a content calendar and write on Tuesday, we're going to do a meme, and it's sort of like, it doesn't really have the desired effect. And that's sort of where that's sort of the sparks and canvases and all that sort of stuff, where you can create that really snappy, like quick content. Again, it does feel like it's sort of 2 against 1. That's not really how I intended it, but
it's effective, because it has that meme roughness to it, and it gets the attention of people in social media. So begs the question: is decent graphic design relevant in social when meme culture and that whole aesthetic of it being quick and nasty can really have more of a traction with the people that use certain social media platforms?
Well, we live in an age where it's not about quality, it's about quantity, unfortunately. People want to post as much as they can on social media because they think the more you post, the more likely you are of getting engagement. And technically that's actually true. Like the more you, it's like throwing slime at a wall, isn't it? I nearly said something else.
Something's gonna stick.
Yeah, you know.
Something stinky's gonna stick.
You know, if you throw enough slime, something's gonna stick.
That classic phrase, if you throw slime at a wall.
That's the first t-shirt for the podcast, throwing slime at a wall. We'll get the mugs as well, throw slime at the wall. We'll actually put some drinks in it next time. But but like, you know what I mean? Like, it genuinely is that, like, the more content you produce, but you still need to actually consider, like, is the quality of the content good? Are you actually including like a call to action? Are you trying to direct your audience to do something instead of just creating content for the sake of it? The minute you create content for the sake of creating content, you have failed as a content creator. And that is the truth. You always need a purpose and a vision behind any piece of content, whether that's to promote a podcast, to push to a website, or just to grow awareness of something. But if you're just like, let's post a load of memes because they're funny and people will like them, and then you post the memes and nobody likes them and nobody finds them funny, and you've kind of decreased your brand's integrity. It's almost like, yeah, what is the point in that? And that's where I do agree with you, Ryan. Like if you're a business and you haven't got, that kind of asset of being able to have a graphic designer on the team, you've got, a lot of the places, the social manager is usually the graphic designer, and they're using Canva and they're using Spark, and they don't understand like the true elements and the necessity of creating good graphics, and they're just creating graphics for the sake of creating graphics because their boss in the big office upstairs is telling them that they need to create it. It would be much better for them to go, look, I can create graphics. Sure, I can use Spark and Canva. They're great tools. But if this is what your objective is, because of course there's going to be an objective, because the man or the woman upstairs think, yeah, well, if we post more graphics and we'll get more likes and, we'll become a more friendly brand. There's always a vision behind it. So finding out that vision and actually saying either, yeah, we'll hire a graphic designer or we'll pay the social manager to go on a graphics course. That's where I think the balance needs to be on this do it yourself kind of thing. But I will always love and defend the idea that anybody can use these platforms like Canva and Spark, because that's what I think is great. You don't need a graphic designer. When you're first starting out, you can do it yourself and you can make it work, but only up to a certain point.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree.
Well, there is that ceiling, isn't there? And I think, but and this is a chance for you to bang your own drum again, Matt, you'll be happy to hear. When you want to break through that level and go to, say, like a corporate level, when you're dealing, you don't see your like huge organizations using Spark and Canva. They have. So you do feel like it's one of those tools whereby if you want to take your brand or just your content to the next level, you get yourself a Ryan Long, right?
Yes.
But not this Ryan Long, a different Ryan Long.
I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, completely. I think there's validity in that. But I guess to close that out, Ryan, what do you think really is the bottom line on that? What do you think, from your opinion as a graphic designer, what's the happy medium for a business in terms of using these own software versus having a graphic designer?
I think it's about understanding your audience. If you know the people you want to target on certain social platforms are going to react more to like Canva-based design, then by all means go down that route and get amazing at Canva. Make what you've got to make in whatever software you have to use to connect with your audience, because that's what it's all about. It's just conveying a message in the most effective way possible. But there comes a point where you might need to really wow people, and then in which case get yourself a graphic designer, someone who can implement their knowledge and intricacies of the craft to really like target your audience and give them what they want to see and ultimately give them what they want through your product.
Yeah, I think that's it's definitely something that. Well, we're glad we have you anyway, mate. I think that's the main thing, guys. I think that just about rounds it up for this week. Do we think?
Yeah, the jar's empty. I think for this week.
So. It's been really good fun. I'm really glad that we've finally sat down to do this.
Yeah,
it's been a long time coming.
Well, there's been a lot of planning and getting the office ready and the set ready. The set's going to continuously improve. We've got some cool things to add to the set, but
namely coffee.
Namely coffee. But it's really good to get the show moving and rolling. And we're going to be here every 2 weeks, I believe, Dan, with the social jar.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, if there's absolutely anything which you agree or even better disagree with what we've been saying this week, we'd love to get some discussions going. So if there's anything that you'd like to add based on what we've been saying, then drop it down below in the comments. We'd love to have a conversation with you, get in touch with us, and we'll see you back in a couple of weeks for another dip into the social jar.
And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. That's also very important as a podcast.
We'll get better at these intros and outros too. That will definitely happen.